we could have learned from. For instance, when we see a group of people going to spread propaganda on South Africa in the United States, we shouldn't be surprised. This has been done before. Muldergate can teach us something. When we see a leader of a party taking a certain stance, we shouldn't be surprised. We should know what is in his nature, where he comes from, and where his party was actually formed. And we would stop clutching our pearls each time these things happen because we know. Okay.
Spilling the tea, essay, light on the way. Spilling the tea, essay, truth won't fade away.
Welcome to Spilling the TSA. Today we're going to just quickly talk about the importance of knowing our history. And it might assist us when it comes to behaviors that we do not understand, specifically from conservatives in South Africa. We're talking about the propaganda missions that were actually undertaken by certain groups, including a specific political party. We are also talking about their takes on history, and maybe knowing our history might help us. So I'm a great believer in learning backwards and living forwards. So yes, we learn from history. We don't live in history. We learn from the things that have happened in history so that we don't repeat them, but also so that we can see what is on rinse and repeat. Then another important thing is that little fable, the frog and the scorpion. So the fable goes that the scorpion was on the one side of the river. He saw the frog and he negotiated with the frog and said, please take me across the river. The frog initially didn't want to take the scorpion across the river because he said, you know what, you will sting me and I will die. The scorpion said, no, man, why would I do that? Because then we'll both drown. And the frog eventually gave in. He loaded the scorpion on his back, started swimming, and before they reached the other side of the river, the scorpion stung him. And as the frog started drowning, he said, why did you do that? Now we're both going to drown. And the scorpion said, it's in my nature. Now, please remember those two things. Learning backwards, living forwards. Second thing is, it's in my nature. Now, one of the big things on social media is the change of Graaff-Reinet, the name of the town, to Robert Sobukwe town. Now, there's a number of reasons to actually change colonial era names, and yeah, there are, but this is not what the discussion is about. Remember what I said previously. I actually want to speak about Muldergate, an actual scandal that happened during apartheid, and something that does not get enough attention, and something we could have learned from. For instance, when we see a group of people going to spread propaganda on South Africa in the United States, we shouldn't be surprised. This has been done before. Muldergate can teach us something. When we see a leader of a party taking a certain stance, we shouldn't be surprised. We should know what is in his nature, where he comes from, and where his party was actually formed. And we would stop clutching our pearls each time these things happen because we know, okay? So let's talk about Muldergate. Now, Muldergate was a scandal during apartheid. Muldergate was where the apartheid government, members of the apartheid government were ousted for misappropriating apartheid government funds, and on a propaganda campaign. The propaganda campaign was headed up by Connie Mulder. If the name sounds familiar, it is familiar because that is Dr. Corné Mulder, who heads up the Freedom Front Plus. That's his father, okay? And Connie Mulder was the Minister of, let's just call it what it was, propaganda. And what happened was he was sending staffers to the United States to spread pro-apartheid South Africa propaganda. And this whole thing was uncovered, and it was seen as the misappropriation of funds. And another thing that I wanted to highlight is that not only was Connie Mulder just a minister, he was one of the candidates identified to succeed Prime Minister Forster as a prime minister. So he was kind of apartheid royalty. If you read the Super Afrikaner, which is around the Broederbond, you would notice his name is actually in that book. It's one of the many Afrikaners that are listed in the back of the book that was part of the Broederbond. So he was already identified early as a possible prime minister. That's how the Broederbond actually worked. They identified leaders in different sectors, including government, up front, and you had to be part of the Broederbond to actually achieve anything as a Super Afrikaner. Anyway, Connie Mulder, after this whole scandal, was no longer a candidate for being a prime minister. The other individual that was identified as the successor for Prime Minister Forster was P.W. Botha. So he actually became the next Prime Minister of apartheid South Africa. When Connie Mulder left, he had to resign in disgrace. He actually started what was known as the Action Front for National Priorities. Now, this was initially a fringe movement that were much more hardliner, conservative, white Christian nationalists that felt that the apartheid government, their stance was too soft. And he formalized this into a political party. But obviously, his credibility was damaged because of the Muldergate scandal. So then Action Front for National Priorities was actually absorbed into the Conservative Party that was also hardline, pro-apartheid, felt that the National Party was too soft when it came to, negotiations, etc., and big believers in separate development. So Connie Mulder went from the blue-eyed boy of the National Party to resigning in disgrace, to starting the Action Front for National Priorities, to then becoming a member of the Conservative Party. He was not a leader. The leader was Treurnig. Okay. And here is where Dr. Corné Mulder comes in, because he, from very young, also joined the Conservative Party. And then the Conservative Party was absorbed into the Freedom Front Plus. Okay, so knowing all those things, knowing that we actually had a scandal during apartheid that, around the spreading of disinformation and propaganda when it came to South Africa, except it was pro-apartheid South Africa propaganda at that stage. Now we've got the anti-South Africa stance, would actually help us understanding not only what is on rinse and repeat here, but also knowing the nature of the beast.
Spilling the tea, essay, light on the way. Spilling the tea, essay, truth